Antigua and Barbuda joins the Alba Bank, and in sport, Lewis Hamilton clinches his sixth World Formula One title. I'm Ricardo Robertson. This is Caribbean in 10 for Tuesday, November 5th, 2019. I'll be back with the details after the break.
We're discussing her book, and it's entitled
Dangerous Intentions, Mouthful of Lies by Q Alexander.
By Q Alexander. Listen, this could be a Lifetime movie or a movie at
Oh, yeah. I am working on that. This is going to turn into a movie.
Definitely. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. So why is it that you felt that it's necessary for you to talk about this?
As I said, it's a healing process, and I write a little bit about it in here, where sometimes people go crazy.
Let me start with you, Mr. Wimstone. What would need to happen? You say you support this. What needs to be there first?
Well, cities are more than buildings, as has been said here. And unfortunately, we're not hearing the discourse about the other things. Public space, public parks, proper pedestrian-friendly streets. A general...
What's that?
It's streets with proper sidewalks.
Antigua and Barbuda has become the newest member of the Alba Bank. Prime Minister Gaston Brown was in Caracas to sign the official inclusion of his country, as well as the financing agreement related to the loan of $15.8 million for injection into regional airline Liat. During the meeting, Brown formally deposited the instrument that allowed Antigua and Barbuda to join Alba and expressed his satisfaction at the good financial position of the bank, which he said would engender trust and confidence.
The bank is a very important institution for the region.
El Banco del Alba es una institución esencial para nuestra región.
It was formed through the bold leadership of your late commander, Hugo Chavez Reyes.
Y la razón que hoy que existe este banco fue por la visión del gran líder que fue Hugo Chávez Frías.
And I extend gratitude on behalf of the people of Antigua and Barbuda and the general Caribbean region for the foresight of your late commander.
The governor of the central bank, Mr. Calixto Ortega, welcomed Prime Minister Brown and said how pleased he was that Antigua and Barbuda was becoming the seventh member of the Alba Bank, joining Venezuela, Cuba, Nicaragua, Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Bolivia. The other Caribbean nations in Alba, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dominica, said they fully supported the bold move by Antigua and Barbuda to join. Still in St. John's, the former head of the Financial Services Regulatory Commission, FSRC, that's Leroy King, has lost his fight against extradition to the United States to face fraud charges. Now, yesterday, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council ruled against him. King had been challenging an extradition warrant issued by former Prime Minister Baldwin Spencer in 2012 in his capacity as Foreign Affairs Minister. The warrant was in response to a formal request from U.S. authorities for King to be extradited to face charges related to the $7 billion Ponzi scheme carried out by former American financier and banker Alan Stanford. Stanford was convicted in 2012 and jailed for a total of 110 years. Attorney General Stedroy Benjamin said the government will turn King over to the U.S. authorities to face the fraud charges. He said now that King has exhausted all the appeals in the 10-year fight against his extradition, the government is left with no other option but to comply with the order of the Privy Council. Benjamin said the U.S. Embassy in Barbados has been in contact with him and the government will carry out the order granted by the court. Guyana can see its economy grow by a further 86% next year after expanding by 4.4% this year, according to the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. The Washington-based financial institution said that while Guyana's annual gross domestic product is $4 billion US, it will expand to about $15 billion US by 2024. It said that expansion will be driven by Exxon Mobil's discovery of the oil offshore of the country. The IMF calculated that country's oil sector will represent about 40% of the economy within 5 years. The financial body, however, noted that its forecast may be subject to large revisions since even small changes to the projected oil output in 2020 would result in significant swings in the overall economic performance. The Guyana government expects the initial $300 million a year in revenue from profit sharing and royalties in the oil sector to more than double after a second offshore well starts production around 2022. And President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Warren Smith, says the Caribbean Single Market and the Economy, the CSME, is the region's best bet for achieving sustainable economic growth. He was addressing a town hall meeting on the CSME in Barbados last night. Smith said Caribbean countries need to adopt a regional approach to enable their economies to become more competitive on the global stage.
There is an urgency, therefore, for us to accelerate the regional integration movement through the completion of the single market. That urgency is underscored by the worrisome shift towards inward-looking policies and a retreat from multilateralism and globalization in some parts of Europe and in the United States of America, which are traditional trading partners of CARICOM.
And stay with us, your Midday Sport is next. Welcome back. It's now time for sport. Formula One superstar Lewis Hamilton celebrated with his Caribbean family connections after clinching his 6th world title by winning Sunday's United States Grand Prix to become the second most successful F1 driver in history. The 34-year-old entering the contest at the Circuit of the Americas, needing to finish 8th or better in order to wrap up the title, finished second behind Mercedes teammate Valtteri Bottas to overtake Argentine legend Juan Manuel Fangio for career titles. Starting from 3rd row on the grid, Hamilton stormed to 4th through turn 1 to move up the field. By lap 9, he had moved up to 3rd behind pole sitter and leader Bottas and Ferrari's Charles Leclerc in 2nd. Hamilton took the lead after Bottas and Red Bull's Max Verstappen, who finished 3rd, pitted on lap 13 and 14 respectively, and even though he dropped down the field after also pitting, reassumed the lead later on when his two main rivals made second stops. He eventually surrendered the lead to Bottas on lap 52 before fending off a strong challenge from Verstappen to follow his teammate home. And legendary West Indies captain Clive Lloyd has recalled one of the greatest and most courageous acts ever witnessed during his playing career in paying tribute to ace fast bowler Malcolm Marshall on the 20th anniversary of his death. And we'll get more of that story in our major newscast at 6:30. That's Caribbean in 10. Good afternoon.